The backyard glowed under a canopy of Edison lights, their soft amber flicker casting a dreamy haze over Emily Carson's 30th birthday party. It was the kind of scene you'd swipe through on Instagram and pause. Wishing you were there. Linen tablecloths. A food truck serving artisanal tacos. And guests in curated shades of cream and sage, sipping rosé like they'd stepped out of a Napa Valley photo shoot. Emily, the golden child of the Carson family, held court near a floral arch, her laughter ringing like a bell. Meanwhile, Sarah Miller, her older sister by 5 years, stood by the patio door, clutching a half-empty glass of sparkling water, her presence as unnoticed as the breeze. Sarah's eyes caught on her father, Tom, as he approached Emily with a small, velvet navy box tied with a satin ribbon. The crowd hushed. Emily's manicured fingers lifted the lid, revealing a diamond pendant necklace that sparkled like it had its own spotlight. "Oh my God," Emily gasped, holding it up to the light. "Dad, is this real?" Her mother, Linda, chuckled softly. "Of course it's real, sweetheart. Only the best for our star." The words landed like a quiet bruise on Sarah's chest. She forced a smile, raised her phone to record the moment, her hand trembling just enough to blur the video. No one noticed. No one knew that Sarah had wired $12 to her father's account a week earlier. After a call that began with, "I hate to ask, Sarah," and ended with, "Emily's been struggling." This would mean everything to her. Sarah didn't argue. She never did. For years, she'd been the family's silent ATM, mortgage payments for their suburban Chicago home. Emily's grad school tuition at Northwestern, utility bills, even the deposit for this very party. Her bank account was a ghost that kept the Carson household alive. But her name was never on the thank you list. She'd learned to fade into the background, solving problems while Emily basked in the glow of being the star. That night, as Emily posed for selfies, the necklace glinting against her collarbone, Sarah handed her a gift, a hand-stitched journal from a local artisan shop. Its leather cover etched with tiny stars. Emily glanced at it, flashed a quick smile, and moved on to a bottle of perfume from another guest. Sarah stood there, clutching the card she'd forgotten to give, watching the crowd cheer for Emily's every move. They clapped for the necklace, she thought, but no one asked who paid for it. She slipped out before the cake was cut, the night air cool against her skin. 2 days later, Sarah was sorting mail in her cramped Rogers Park apartment when her phone pinged. A Facebook notification. Emily had posted, "Can't believe someone would do this to me. My necklace is gone." No names, but the accusation was sharp as glass. Comments poured in. "Who would dare?" and "Some people have no shame." A cousin tagged Sarah with a single question mark. Her stomach twisted, but she didn't respond. She just stared at the screen, a half-opened bill still in her hand, feeling like the ground was slipping. It wasn't anger yet, just a slow, grinding realization that she'd been standing on unstable earth for years. She thought it might be a mistake. Maybe Emily misplaced it. But then her phone buzzed again. A group text from Linda. "Dinner Sunday at the house. Let's catch up as a family. Smile." The emoji felt like a warning shot. Sarah's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She considered asking, "Is this about the necklace?" But instead, she typed, "I'll be there," and hit send. A chill settled in her bones. This wasn't a family reunion. This was an ambush. The days crawled by. Sarah went through the motions at her data analyst job, fixing a glitch in a client's software, answering emails, her mind half present. By Sunday, she stood in front of her mirror, smoothing a gray sweater, neutral, unassuming, safe. She drove to her parents' house in Evanston, the quiet streets lined with oak trees whispering caution. 3 cars were already in the driveway, her parents' sedan, Emily's sleek SUV, and her Uncle Mike's pickup. Mike? She thought. He hadn't been to a family dinner in months. Linda opened the door before Sarah could knock, her smile tight. "Come in, honey. Dinner's almost ready." The house smelled of roasted chicken and rosemary, Sarah's favorite. A dish Linda only made for her birthday. But today wasn't her birthday. And the last one had passed without so much as a card. Sarah followed her mother inside, her steps heavy. like walking into a courtroom. Emily was already at the table, twirling a glass of Pinot Noir, her expression unreadable. Tom sat at the head, arms crossed, his face carved with tension. Mike lingered near the window, avoiding eye contact. The meal started with small talk, Emily's new marketing gig, Tom's complaints about neighborhood kids on TikTok. But the air was thick, like a storm waiting to break. Then, as Linda poured Sarah more water, Emily tilted her head and said, "You know what's crazy? That necklace is still missing." Sarah's fork froze mid-air. "Which one?" Mike asked, his tone too casual. "The diamond pendant," Emily said, her eyes locking onto Sarah's. "The one I wore at my party. It was in my jewelry box. And now it's gone." The room went silent, the kind of quiet that swallows sound. "I thought you said it might be misplaced," Sarah said, her voice steady but her pulse racing. "I did," Emily replied, her lips curling slightly. "But I've checked everywhere. I don't just leave things lying around." Linda looked down at her plate. Tom cleared his throat. "It's strange, though," Emily continued, her voice syrupy. "Sarah, you were upstairs that night, weren't you? Before dinner?" Sarah blinked. "I used the bathroom." Emily leaned back. "Right. But I could have sworn I saw your old room's door open." Sarah's chest tightened. "I didn't go in there," she said firmly. Tom's voice cut through, sharp and low. "Let's not make this something it isn't." But Emily pressed on. "I found the necklace box," she said, her words slicing the air. "Under the bookshelf in your old room." Every head turned to Sarah. Her mouth went dry. "I haven't touched that room in months," she said, looking at Linda, then Tom, then Mike. No one spoke. "Is there anything you want to say?" Tom asked, his chair creaking as he leaned forward. "I didn't take it," Sarah said, her voice clear. "You know me, do we?" Tom muttered. Emily sipped her wine, her eyes never leaving Sarah. "If it's a mistake, just give it back," she said. "No need for this to get messy." Sarah's hands clenched under the table. "There's nothing to give back." Tom stood. "Maybe you should go. Clear your head." Sarah looked at each of them, Linda folding her napkin, Mike staring at the floor. Emily's faint smirk. "You're serious?" she asked. Tom pointed to the door. "Go." Sarah walked out, her steps deliberate, past the living room where her childhood photos used to hang, past the kitchen where she'd once baked cookies with Linda. As she reached the porch, she glanced up. Emily stood at the upstairs window, arms crossed, that same smirk etched on her face. Sarah held her gaze, unblinking, then turned and walked to her car. The night was cool, the stars sharp. She didn't cry, she didn't scream. What she felt wasn't pain, it was clarity. Cold and unshakable. She drove to a short-term rental in Logan Square, a tiny studio with a sagging couch and a microwave that hummed too loud. She collapsed onto the bed, still in her sweater, her phone at 3%. A charger in a drawer, a small mercy, brought it back to life. A text from Linda waited. "Hope you got home safe." No warmth, no apology. Sarah didn't reply. Instead, she messaged her boss, asking to work remotely for the week. "Take what you need," he responded. No questions, no judgment. The next morning, Sarah sat on the couch, a reheated coffee in hand, scrolling through Instagram to numb her thoughts. Then she saw it. Emily's latest post. Get ready with me, video. Emily stood at her vanity, curling her hair, chatting about her birthday look. But in the mirror's reflection, half tucked under her blouse, was the diamond pendant, the one she'd claimed was stolen. The one that got Sarah banished. Sarah paused the video, rewound, and watched again. There it was, undeniable, glinting like a confession. She didn't scream or call Emily. She took screenshots, 2 clean frames. One zoomed, labeled and saved them to a folder called Truth. Her hands were steady now. This wasn't about revenge, it was about evidence. Later that day, a message came from Jake, Emily's ex from college. Someone Sarah hadn't spoken to in years. Saw Emily at a bar last Friday. She was laughing about getting you out of the picture. Said the necklace was never stolen, just misplaced. She didn't correct your dad when he flipped out. Attached was a blurry photo of Emily. Mid-laugh, the necklace gleaming on her chest. Sarah saved the message. The photo. Everything. She wasn't planning a fight, not yet. She was building a case. That night, she opened her banking app. Line by line, she cancelled every autopay tied to her family, mortgage, utilities, Emily's tuition, insurance. Each click felt like shedding a weight she'd carried too long. If I'm not family, she thought, I don't fund the house. The screen refreshed. Done. For the first time in years. Her money was her own. By morning, her phone buzzed with a text from Tom. Did you mess with the bills? Sarah stared at it, then replied, I cancelled my payments. I don't live there anymore. Silence. Then, you could have warned us. She typed, you told me to leave. Why pay for a home I'm not welcome in? She didn't wait for his reply. She hung up, ate a bowl of cereal, and opened a new folder on her laptop. For _lawyer_ if needed. Every receipt, every transfer, every email, she organized them by date, by purpose. This wasn't anger. This was preparation. Days later, an email arrived from a law firm, accusing her of defamation, signed on behalf of Emily Carson. Sarah didn't flinch. She replied with a Dropbox link containing her evidence, screenshots, videos, Jake's message, payment records. 2 days later, a follow-up, our client will not pursue legal action. No apology, just retreat. Sarah didn't celebrate. She signed a lease for a 1-bedroom in Andersonville, changed her number, and moved in with 2 bags and a new sense of freedom. Standing in her empty apartment, Sarah hung a single photo on the wall, a picture of herself at 10. Holding a kite on a windy Lake Michigan beach, smiling like she owned the world. Below it, she taped one word, enough. Not a cry for vengeance, but a promise to herself. She'd spent years paying to belong. Now, she knew she always had. The fluorescent lights of the Logan Square coffee shop buzzed faintly as Sarah Miller sat at a corner table, her laptop screen casting a pale glow on her face. It was 7:12 p.m., and the Chicago evening outside was heavy with spring rain. The kind that made the city feel like it was holding its breath. Sarah's fingers hovered over the keyboard, her coffee untouched, as she stared at a paused Instagram video. There, in the grainy reflection of Emily Carson's vanity mirror, was the diamond pendant necklace, the one Emily swore was stolen. The one that had branded Sarah a thief in her own family's eyes. The necklace glinted like a taunt, half hidden under Emily's blouse. Undeniable proof of a lie that had cost Sarah everything. Sarah didn't cry or curse. She didn't call her sister to scream or demand an apology. Instead, she clicked, download, saved the video, and took 3 meticulous screenshots, one wide, one zoomed, one cropped tight on the pendant. She named the files with clinical precision. Then she created a folder on her desktop, labeled it, Truth Archive, and dragged the files in. This wasn't about rage. It was about control. Control over a narrative that had been twisted against her for too long. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her focus. A text from Jake, Emily's ex from their Northwestern days. A guy Sarah hadn't thought about in years. Heard about the birthday dinner mess. Was at a Wicker Park bar last Friday. Overheard Emily bragging about, finally getting you out of the family picture. She said the necklace was never stolen. Just misplaced. Laughed when your dad flipped out. Attached was a photo, blurry but unmistakable. Emily. Head thrown back, laughing, the pendant catching the bar's neon light. Sarah's breath caught, not from shock, but from the weight of confirmation. She saved the image, labeled it, and added it to the archive. For years, Sarah had been the family's invisible scaffolding. $12 for Emily's necklace. $45 a year for her grad school tuition. $1,200 monthly mortgage payments for the Evanston house her parents could no longer afford. Even $300 for Linda's thyroid meds when their insurance lapsed. She'd paid without fanfare, without thanks, because that's what family did, right? But now, as she sat in the coffee shop, the rain streaking the windows like tears she refused to shed, Sarah realized family wasn't a contract, it was a choice. And they'd chosen to erase her. She opened her banking app. The screen glowing with a list of autopays tied to her account. ComEd. People's Gas. The mortgage. Emily's tuition portal. Even the homeowner's insurance. Her finger lingered over the cancel button for the mortgage. Her name wasn't on the deed. But for 42 months. Her money had kept the lights on. The heat running. The roof over their heads. If I'm not family, she thought. I'm not their bank. She clicked cancel on each one. The confirmations popping up like tiny exhales. Are you sure? Yes. Payment terminated. Done. The screen went blank. Then refreshed. Her account was free. The next morning, Sarah woke in her Logan Square rental. A 400 square foot studio with peeling paint and a mattress that creaked. Her phone was at 6%. But a charger scavenged from a drawer kept it alive. A text from her mother. Linda. Waited. Power flickered this a.m. City issue? Sarah stared at the words. The lack of warmth as glaring as the lie they'd all believed. She didn't reply. Instead, she opened her laptop and started a new spreadsheet, personal ledger. Columns for dates, amounts, purposes, mortgage, tuition, medical bills, party deposits, line by line. She logged every payment she'd made since 2020. The total hit $287,432.19. She printed it, stapled the pages, and slid them into a manila folder labeled Truth in black Sharpie. If anyone ever dared say, Sarah never helped, she'd hand them this. By noon, she was back at the coffee shop. Her laptop open to the Truth archive. She added bank statements, tuition invoices, and email threads with her father, Tom, confirming wire transfers. Thanks, Sarah, you're a lifesaver. One read. She saved it, time-stamped it. Then came another ping. A LinkedIn post from Emily. A staged photo of her in a cap and gown. Arms raised under a blooming magnolia tree. Couldn't have done it without mom and dad's unwavering support. Grateful beyond words. The comments gushed. Your parents are the best. Sarah's jaw tightened. Not one mention of the $90 she'd paid for Emily's MBA. She saved the post. Labeled it. That evening, Sarah got an email from a law firm in downtown Chicago. A cease and desist letter accusing her of defamation and emotional distress against Emily Carson. The words were cold, legal, dismissive. Further actions may result in litigation. Sarah didn't panic. She replied with a single line. See attached. The attachment was a Dropbox link to her Truth archive, screenshots, videos, Jake's photo, payment records, everything. 2 days later, a follow-up email arrived. Our client will not pursue legal action. No apology, no retraction, just silence. Sarah didn't smile. She didn't need to. The truth had spoken. But the erasure went deeper. At the pharmacy, picking up her own prescription, the clerk hesitated. Your insurance was removed last week. She said, you're not on the plan anymore. Sarah nodded, paid out of pocket, and walked out. They hadn't just kicked her out of the family dinner, they'd scrubbed her from their legal and financial existence. Like she was a guest who'd overstayed. It didn't break her. It hardened her resolve. Sarah drove to Andersonville and signed a lease for a one-bedroom apartment. No co-signer, no questions. She changed her phone number, updated it only with her boss, and left the rest of the world behind. The moving van came the next day. She packed her 2 bags, a box of books, and a thrift store lamp, leaving a note on the rentals counter. Thanks for the shelter. The Chicago skyline faded in her rearview as she drove north. The lake shimmering to her right. She didn't play music. She didn't call anyone. The silence was hers. In her new apartment, Sarah unpacked slowly. She hung sheer curtains she'd chosen herself, pale blue like the lake on a calm day. On the living room wall, she placed a single frame, a photo of herself at 10. Standing on Montrose Beach, kite string tangled in her fingers, grinning like she'd caught the wind itself. Below it, she pinned one word, cut from cardstock. Enough. Not a cry, not a plea, but a vow. She'd spent years buying a seat at a table that never wanted her. Now, she was her own home. A week later, her phone buzzed with a text from Linda. You broke this family. Sarah read it, her coffee steaming beside her. Once, those words would have gutted her, sent her spiraling into guilt. Now, they were just noise. She deleted the message, sipped her coffee, and turned to the window. The city hummed below, alive and indifferent. Her voicemail filled up. Tom, her aunt, a cousin, all pleading for her to talk it out. She deleted them all, muted the alerts, and went back to her life. Days later, a coworker forwarded a TikTok clip. Emily, mid-makeup routine, curling iron in hand, the pendant necklace dangling casually against her skin. Sarah saved it, labeled it. She didn't share it. She didn't need to. The truth wasn't a weapon, it was a shield. She heard through a friend that Tom was now working part-time at a hardware store. That Emily was selling designer bags online, calling it a closet purge. Sarah didn't gloat. She didn't need their downfall to feel whole. Standing at her window that night, Lake Michigan, a dark expanse beyond the city lights, Sarah felt something new, certainty. Not loud, not vengeful, but steady. She'd built a life from scratch, paid for with her own money, her own choices. The kettle whistled behind her. She poured the water, settled into her chair, and smiled. Closure wasn't an apology. It was the moment you stopped bleeding for people who kept cutting. And Sarah was done bleeding.